I'm Bob Gudmundsson, the other side. Seeing as how I've known Margaret, Maggie, or as I've called her Mom, for most of her life Mom, longer than anyone in this room save one, I think I would talk about parts of her life you may or may not know about. When we first met, my mother was strong. I didn't know it at the time, but today I can only imagine the pain involved with expelling a 10-pound mass from your body. My mother was an athlete. In a time when she was a young woman, in a time when women in sports wasn't as celebrated as it is now, she competed in diving and swimming. And that love affair with the water carried on, as you can see from the pictures, for the rest of her life. My mother was the meaning of courage, which someone else pointed out. When she stood up at a neighborhood meeting in our little enclave and talked in favor of desegregation to a crowd that was overwhelming in its vehemence against it. Somewhat resentful at the time for the pariahs I felt she made us, I now see it as one of her finest moments. My mother was all about camping. From our first introduction to it with Campfire Girls, a group, some of whom she's kept in touch with for close to 70 years, to her honeymoon with my father, camping trip in Yosemite. There were the years of my youth backpacking across the Sierras, boat trips along the canals of the English countryside, which with the hard work of manually operating all the locks the boat passes through, she compared it with backpacking, but with a comfortable bed and a decent kitchen. To the RV trips of the last few years that we took, including one less than a year ago, where we visited 8 national parks across 4 states in 18 days. My mother was an example of determination when she taught me there's some things you don't accept ever. I almost pitied the man, woman, or child who chose to use the N-word in her presence. And I never saw anybody do it a second time. An example of a woman ahead of her time, eventually the rest of the country caught up to her. My mother was starting over and second chances when she went back to school to get a degree and enter the workforce in her 30s. That she went to Cal to do it during some of its most turbulent years of its history just go to show how she strode through life. My mother was forgiveness, accepting, and understanding. She kind of had to be. She had me for a son. But mostly, my mother was loved by being my mom.